Hello and welcome to R&R Cinetalks. I am Clinton Robison and I will be your guide through this journey of everything independent film related. Sit back and listen to me as I interview various people involved in the film industry, do some movie reviews, and have some great generalized discussions. Thank you and enjoy. For everybody joining us today on R&R Cinetalks, we're going to be reviewing the movie The Hike. I have with me Jason Pitts. He's been on the channel a couple times. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I can't complain. Happy to be back at it again on the podcast. It's been kind of a brief hiatus for myself because of everything going on, but I think we're back at it better than ever.
Yep.
So, let's just jump into this movie, The Hike. So, you're the one that found it for me, so why don't you go ahead and introduce the director and the cast and everything? Or at least the director and the producer or whatever.
The producer, or one of the producers, is named Vinny Vineyard, and he's one of the people that approached me on social media to review it. And then he asked if I had a podcast or a blog or anything, and I immediately thought of you, and I was like, well, I know a guy who has a blog or has a podcast.
It's kind of like a audio-video blog.
Yeah. That's when I reached out yesterday.
Yeah, when you reached out to me about it, I thought it was going to be a short, and then I loaded it on YouTube, and it was like, hour and 45 minutes, and I was like, all right, cool. But, yeah, the movie... it really wasn't my type of cup of tea, like, in general, but it's mostly because it had that, like, grindhouse Rob Zombie-esque feel to it, in my opinion. But, I mean, I definitely could see how some people could be into it. It just wasn't, like, something I would personally watch. It was kind of reminiscent of almost, like, Devil's Rejects or something like that, just with, like, the vibe at the opening, at least. But...
yeah, I agree.
I think it was written pretty well, though. I mean, there was some hiccups here and there with, like, acting or editing. The color grading was a little off, in my opinion. It was either the color grading or, like, overexposure or something like that. I don't know, is a little...
I think it was overexposure, but I think it could have been on purpose.
Yeah, like you said in that text thread, it could have been something like they were going for that 70s grindhouse type of vibe, so it could have been on purpose. But, I mean, it was definitely intriguing. I was a little lost in what they were going for at first, but the deeper you get into it, the better it gets. It was kind of a rough start, though, in my opinion, but it definitely improved as the time went on. I wish it was a legitimate release so that we could have it, like, streaming, like, in the background without any audio so people could see it, but since it's pre-release, I can't do that. Sorry for anybody watching this, I can't show you what we're talking about, but it was decent, and I didn't know this until after I watched it, that they were actually, like, wrestlers, because I texted you, and I was like, are they wrestlers? Because this fight seems a little, like, WWF-ish.
Right. I think a lot of the people involved in making it, the actors and the producers and the directors, I think a lot of them are wrestlers out of Tennessee and Mississippi.
Yeah, I think you said that, and I think in that group message chat that somebody brought it up. But it's really cool that they got into making a movie. It's definitely worth watching. Like, I'll say that about any indie film, and before we start getting, like, super critiquey like we do, I just want to let everybody know that whatever we're saying is for rooms for improvement for them. Making any sort of independent film is a great success, especially if you're at the point where they're at, where they're trying to find a distributor. At that point, like, you've done a great job.
I will say one thing. Like, this kind of makes sense to me because
your audio cut out there. Oh, are you there? I can't hear you, Jason. I think you might have muted yourself. Yeah, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try calling you back really quick. Okay? Sorry, listeners. We'll be right back at it.
Hello?
I can hear you now.
Okay. What I was saying is I used to work for a wrestling organization, and I think that COVID really hurt the independent wrestling business.
Right.
And so it makes sense to me that a bunch of wrestlers would get together and make a movie during COVID.
Right.
I don't know if they filmed it like last year or this year, but I was just making that point. It makes sense to me.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense to me as well, especially because they're already in the entertainment industry. They're actors. And it would make sense for them to throw that, like, 10-minute fight sequence at the end there. It was pretty cool. I do have to say, like, the acting, it makes sense knowing that they come from a wrestling background that the acting wasn't, like, Hollywood level, but it was definitely there. They knew how to act, which I enjoyed. The main guy, his acting, like, I really got into that very, very well.
I agree.
And the soundtrack, they had a lot of good music for the type of film that they were making. It was actually one of the better soundtracks I've heard in the reviews so far that I've done. Definitely some quality with the soundtrack. There was some like dubbing, because they did some voiceover work. I guess that, like, when they were in the car or whatever, they decided that they couldn't record audio in the vehicle. They might have had, like, some technical issues. But it was... You could tell that the audio was recorded in a studio setting instead of in the field or whatever. So they could have definitely got some, like, room tones from the car itself just to make it feel a little more natural. But other than that audio and, like, the visuals and stuff, on a technical side of things, I think it was pretty good otherwise.
Yeah, I'm... You know, I went to film school, so I'm like a traditional film guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the way this thing was shot and edited is like just throw all that out the window, and that's not what I like personally.
Right.
It's like you said earlier, it's very reminiscent of like a Rob Zombie type film where everything is almost schizophrenic, and it's like very like you almost don't know what's going on. And it's kind of like a music video, almost. You know?
Almost. It's definitely reminiscent of that. And, like, there was some plot threads that kind of didn't tie together until, like, the very, 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 very end of a movie.
That's fine.
Which works. It's just, like, for part of it, you're sitting there like, what's the importance of this? And then it ties together at the end, and you're like, oh, okay. It's almost worth going over and rewatching to see those threads tied together again, which is nice. Some of it kind of felt like it was just thrown in, but with those types of films with that schizophrenic Rob Zombie grindhouse type of look, that's actually part of the genre, is just random bits that are thrown in. So it's not your stereotypical horror. It's almost like those like 70s grindhouse like double feature types of films, like from back in the days of the boom of the drive-in theater. You know what I mean? And that's the vibe I got from it. Like something that I actually, a scene that I really liked was like when he's like tripping on the mushrooms and wandering through the forest, and he sees like the cultists making the sacrifice, and you're like, oh my god, this is the movie, and it turns out that it was just
what's up?
Yeah, you want a piece of this? Oh nope, I'm good. You know, like I like that a lot, because you almost think it falls in, and it just ends up being like his mushroom dream that he's in, which was really good. There was a lot of comedic effect that definitely lightened up the film in a way for me that was actually very enjoyable. And I feel like if they had the budget, you know, that a lot of these people have, it would have been like a great film. And that's why I think it's worth watching. It's not released yet. They're obviously going through a distributor and have to figure out, you know, what their next steps are and everything like that. But I'll definitely post about it when it's released because it's at least worth checking out.
I agree. And like you said earlier, like I think one of the best things about it was the performance of the lead. Vinny Vineyard is it was also a producer that I mentioned earlier. He's also the main actor. And very, very well done.
Yeah, his performance was amazing. I felt he was probably the strongest out of all of them. Not saying that any of them are weak, but definitely out of all of them, he was definitely like the person that kept the film going, which I enjoyed thoroughly. His performance, grade A, spot on. And you know, like all the actors did a great job. I mean, it had you know, some violence, some blood, some language, a little bit of nudity, which you don't see a lot. In like the indie industry, people are like very uncomfortable with throwing that out there, and that just shows that they were willing to go that length, and the actors were comfortable going that length, which you don't see a lot of in the industry. Which I'm not saying I want nudity in films, but you know, there's some points where that is more human in situations. I personally don't write it in just because I don't want to have to go through all that drama and contracts and stuff. I'd rather just not deal with it myself. Also, I feel like it would be awkward on set. I don't know. It takes a special type of crew and cast to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Definitely not me. You know the people we work with. There would definitely be a lot of jokes. But it's definitely worth watching when it comes out. We don't do scores on the show, people that are watching. I don't believe in grading people just because it's not fair in a lot of ways, because like I said, it's not a film that I personally would have watched. So automatically that's going to deduct points just because personally that's not something I would be into. But is there anything we haven't talked about yet about it, Jason? That
nothing I can think of. We already talked about the look, sound quality, acting. Yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything.
I think so
without
too.
giving away too much.
Yeah, since it's not out there to be watched, I don't want to. What I want is from now on the channel is to be able to have like a second window showing next to like our faces of it, at least in the background, to be able to hit up on points that are going. Obviously, we won't watch like the whole thing if it's an hour and a half. I'll fast forward to the part we're talking about, but it's. I feel, you know, like that sound quality, it wasn't there for a lot of the film, and I feel like maybe they had like an issue, maybe a mic wasn't recording properly, so they had to go back and voice over, or maybe they were just picking up too much wind at some point, or something like that, which is a big industry issue when it comes to independent films in general. Like, I've had issues where a truck goes by in an outdoor scene, and all of a sudden, like, that entire take's blown, or a mic just drops and breaks out of nowhere, or the recording audio guy wasn't recording, which thankfully Nick Daniel, the person I use on all my films now, he doesn't have that issue. But I feel like maybe it was just like a technical issue and it wasn't something they did on purpose, and they just ended up being in post and they were like, well, crap, you know. Maybe like small continuity errors, like in the fight scene, somebody gets stabbed with the knife and it didn't have blood on it. You know, just like small stuff like that gets nitpicky, but it doesn't detract from the watchability of the film. And without going too into depth, it's almost like the supernatural aspect of the film is just like a background thing, and it's more about what people will do to get personal justice, almost.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy, and then there's that whole park ranger bit that's almost like a backstory, like a background story for a character that's a background character, which
he cracked me up
with the skunk.
Yeah.
I was just like, I did not expect that. I did not expect a skunk punt. But it's definitely worth checking out, and you know, guys, just keep a lookout on my page. I will post a link for it once it comes out. Even if it's just like you end up having to buy it on Amazon Prime, which most of the time if you do, these indie films are like 99 cents or $1.99. It's definitely worth that just to support them. Anything else, Jason, before we sign off?
Just thanking Vinny and the rest of the people who made the film for letting us watch it. And
absolutely. I really appreciate getting that press release of the film. And I hope you guys, you know, you get a good distribution deal, and I hope at least, you know, I get you guys another 40 or 50 people to watch it when it comes out. But thank you, Jason, for joining me, and thank you, everyone that is watching the live stream. I know live streams are hard to watch sometimes. You're always busy. So I always appreciate everybody coming out and keep for the episode to drop. I'm looking for this new format for reviews, interviews, everything to release on the podcast 7 days after the live stream. Thank you everyone for enjoying that episode. I really hope you liked it. Thank you for tuning in, and please continue to do so. Subscribe and look out for every new episode. One should drop on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I always live stream my episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please tune in and enjoy that as well. And remember, support your independent film community.